Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ayan Rafiq and I am a foundation level student at Jahan School Islamabad Barakung campus. Today I am going to conduct a session with my in this session. I will ask few questions and I will provide the answers. Let's start. Hey Maya.
I'm all ears. Lay it on me.
Okay, Maya, my first question is what is software?
Software, at its most basic level, is the set of instructions that tells the hardware exactly what to do. While hardware is the physical stuff you can actually touch, the screen, the chips, the wires. Software is invisible. It's a collection of data and code that acts as the bridge between a human's intent and the machine's action. Without software, your laptop would just be a very expensive piece of aluminum and plastic. It wouldn't know how to turn on a pixel, let alone run a video game or a web browser. To dive deeper, software is essentially written in languages that humans can understand, like Python or Java, and then translated into machine code, those ones and zeros that the processor can execute. It's an incredible feat of layering. You have the high level logic where a programmer says, when the user clicks this button, open this file. And that gets broken down through several layers of translation until the hardware is just flipping tiny electrical switches on and off billions of times per second. We generally categorize it into two main camps. First, you have system software like Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. This is the foundation. Its entire job is to manage the hardware and provide a platform for everything else to run on. It's like the manager of a hotel who makes sure the electricity is on and the doors are unlocked so the guests can actually stay there. Then you have application software. This is what most of us actually interact with every day. Your web browsers, Spotify, Photoshop, or even a simple calculator. These are tools designed to help the user perform specific tasks. If it's system, I'm not sure I follow. Are you saying system software isn't available, or are you thinking about how the user accesses it? Let me know what you mean.
Okay, my next question is what is the difference between software and hardware?
The simplest way to put it is that hardware is the body and software is the soul. Hardware is everything you can physically touch. It's the tangible, heavy stuff, the circuit boards, the hard drive, the screen, the keyboard, and the processor. If you can, drop it on your foot and it hurts, it's hardware. It's built from materials like silicon, plastic, and metal, and it's designed to execute the instructions it's given. But on its own, hardware is essentially dormant. It has the potential to do things, but no direction. Software, on the other hand, is completely intangible. Can't touch it, can't smell it, and it doesn't take up any physical space in the room. It's a set of digital instructions, a series of logical commands written in code. While hardware is the how of the machine, how it processes electricity and signals, software is the what. It's what tells the machine to display a specific color on the screen, what tells the speakers to play a sound, and what tells the printer to put ink on a page. Think of it like a musical instrument and a piece of sheet music. The piano is the hardware. It's a physical object with keys, strings, and a wooden frame. It has the capacity to make sound, but it can't play a song by itself. The sheet music is the software. It's the set of instructions, the notes, the tempo, the rhythm that tells the pianist exactly which keys to press and when. Without the piano, the music is just an idea on a page. Without the music, piano is just a silent piece of furniture. They need each other to actually create something. Another way to look at it is through the lens of permanence and flexibility. Hardware is relatively permanent. Once a chip is printed or a screen is manufactured, you can't easily change its physical structure. If you want a faster processor, you usually have to buy a new one. Software, however, is fluid. That's why we have updates. You don't have to buy a new phone every time an app gets a new feature. You just download a new version of the software. You can rewrite the logic, fix the bugs, and add entire new capabilities to the hardware without ever opening the case. In a computer, this relationship happens in a constant loop. The software sends a command, the hardware executes that command, and the hardware then sends a signal back to the software to let it know the task is done. It's a symbiotic relationship where the physical meets the logical. A problem? What part feels like a problem? Are you thinking about how they can clash or maybe how one can fail while the other is still working?
Okay, my next question is what are the main type of software?
Next topic, and I'll dive right back in. I'm standing by. What's the next deep dive?
My next question is what is system software?
Like writing a document or editing a photo, but
My next question is what is application software?
application software is basically any program designed to help you perform a specific task, whether that's for work, creativity, or just killing time. Unlike system software, which runs in the background to keep the machine alive, application software is what you actually interact with. Think of it as the tools in your digital toolbox. For example, when you open a web browser to search for something, a word processor to write a script, or a game to relax, you're using application software. These apps are built to solve Exactly. I think you might have me confused with someone else. My name's Maya, but you're very welcome. Are we moving on to the next part of your script?
My next question is, what is programming?
Programming is essentially the act of giving a computer a set of precise instructions to follow. Since computers don't actually understand human language, programming is how we bridge that gap. You use a programming language, which is like a translator, to write code that the computer can eventually turn into action. It's a lot like writing a recipe. If you miss a step or get an ingredient wrong, the cake doesn't rise, or in the case of a computer, the program crashes. It's a mix of logic. Yeah, good luck. Ready for the next question on your list?
Okay, my next question is, what is coding?
Coding is often used interchangeably with programming, but if we're being precise, it's more like the actual act of writing the lines of code. Think of it this way: if programming is the entire process of planning a building, the blueprints, the architecture, and the engineering, then coding is the actual construction work, like laying the bricks and installing the pipes. It's the hands on part where you translate those logical plans into a language the machine can read. Whether you're writing a few lines to automate a simple task or thousands of lines for a complex piece of software, you're essentially communicating in a very structured, disciplined way. One misplaced semicolon or a tiny typo can bring the whole thing to a halt, which is why it requires so much attention to detail. Does that distinction make sense for your script, or should I lean more into the technical side?
So my next question is, how is software developed?
I'm not entirely sure I follow. Are you asking how software gets updated or upgraded, or is this about a specific piece of hardware?
My question is, how is software developed?
If you're asking how software adapts to different needs or environments, it's all about flexibility in the design. Developers build software to be adaptable using things like configuration files, which let the user change how the app behaves without changing the actual code. There's also something called cross platform development, where the software is written in a way that allows it to adapt and run on different operating systems, like moving from Windows to Mac OS without having to start from scratch. Then you have AI-driven adaptation, where the software actually learns from your behavior and changes its interface or suggestions to fit your habits. Does that hit the mark for your video, or are you thinking more about how it's updated over time?
So my next question is, what does a software developer do?
A software developer is essentially the architect and the builder of the digital world. They don't just sit there typing lines of code all day. That's only one part of the job. The real work starts with problem solving. They take a goal like, I want an app that helps people track their water intake, and break it down into a logical map of how that actually happens. They decide how the data flows, how the user interacts with the screen, and how to make the whole thing run efficiently without crashing. Once the plan is set, they write the code using the languages we talked about, like Python or JavaScript. But the job doesn't end when the code is written. A huge chunk of their time is spent on debugging, which is basically a digital detective game where they hunt down the tiny errors that are causing the program to act up. They also have to keep the software updated because technology changes so fast that if a developer stops learning, their software becomes a dinosaur almost overnight. In a professional setting, they usually work in teams, collaborating with designers who decide how the app looks and product managers who decide what features are actually needed. It's a constant cycle of planning, building, testing, and refining. Does that give you enough detail for the script, or do you want to dive into the different types of developers, like front end and back end?
So my next question is, what is the difference between a software engineer and a programmer?
This is one of those things where people use the terms interchangeably, but there's a real difference in the scale of how they think. A programmer is like a specialist who knows how to speak the language of the machine. Their primary focus is on the code itself, taking a specific task and writing the instructions to make it happen. It's very direct. I need the computer to do X, so I will write the code for X. Now, a software engineer is more like the architect who oversees the entire ecosystem. They aren't just thinking about the code for one feature, they're thinking about the structural integrity of the whole system. They care about scalability, like if a million people use this app at once, will the servers melt? And they focus on the entire life cycle of the software, from the initial design and requirements to long-term maintenance and security. To put it in a way that might work for your script, a programmer builds the wall, but a software engineer designs the entire skyscraper to make sure it doesn't fall over when the wind blows. Does that clear it up, or do you want to get into the specific tools they use differently?
Okay, my next question is, what is ChatGPT?
I'm assuming you mean Chat GPT. It's a type of AI called a large language model. Um, Basically, it's been trained on a massive amount of human text, books, articles, conversations. So it can understand patterns in how we talk and write. Because of that, it can do things that feel almost human, like writing a poem, explaining complex physics, or even helping you draft the script you're working on right now. Unlike a traditional search engine that just points you to a website, ChatGPT actually generates a response based on what it's learned. It's predicting the next word in a sequence over and over again, but it does it so well that it can have a full nuanced conversation. It's less of a database and more of a highly sophisticated pattern recognition engine. Does that work for your video, or do you want to know more about how it actually thinks? I'm not sure I caught.
Okay, my next question is,
No worries. I missed that part too. Were you about to add something to the Chat GPT explanation, or are we moving on to the next slide?
which programming language is best for beginners?
If you're just starting, Python is almost always the top recommendation. The reason it's so popular for beginners is that it reads a lot like English. You don't have to deal with nearly as much complex syntax or boilerplate code as you would in something like Java or C++, which means you can focus on learning the logic of programming rather than fighting with the language itself. It's also incredibly versatile. Whether you're I think you're still mixing me up with other people. First Neil, now Alex, I'm Maya. But back to the language part. Python is great because it's used for everything from data science to AI. So you're learning a tool that actually has a ton of real world uses. Do you want to know about a few other beginner options, or are you sticking with Python for your project?
So viewers, this is the session for Maya. Today we will meet you in another Maya session. तब तक के लिए अल्लाह हाफिज, पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद.